DA Interim Leader John Steenhuisen is calling for the full review of the entire parole system in South Africa. This follows an outcry over the murder of 8-year-old Tazne Van Wyk from Elsies River. The suspect in the matter was released on parole in 2018. The Department of Correctional Services says the man arrested in connection with the kidnapping and murder of the 8-year-old absconded from parole a year before she went missing near her home in Elsies River, Cape Town. We're joined now by Justice and Correctional Services Minister Ronald Lamola to talk about this. Minister, very good evening to you. Thank you so much for speaking to us. First of all, what is your reaction to the outrage that you have seen? There is seemingly a sense by community members that parole, the system itself, is failing and is failing communities.
Now, obviously, we sympathize with the outrage from the community, and it is worrying us because it affects the system of rehabilitation. And as you have said, it does show from our system that there are some systematic weaknesses, particularly in the province of the Western Cape, where we see a resurgence of these incidents.
What would you say is the cause? In this case, I know the department says that you knew that he was out on parole, but that he'd actually absconded by, I think, 2018 already, so you didn't know how to find him.
I think that's what the department was looking at, to see what happened and what could have happened. But the real issue is that there is a big challenge that we're having, particularly in the Western Cape. Throughout the country, there is some stability in terms of the system, and we are in the process of review. I see the Steenhuisen says it must be reviewed. We are reviewing it. We agree there are some systematic challenges. There are instances where it does work well, and there are people who are on parole, who are in communities, who are contributing positively, but there are those that do affect the system by wrong behavior. So
you say specifically in the Western Cape, I want to point you to a case in 2018, an alleged child killer already serving time for rape and attempted murder of a young girl in 2005. He himself was arrested, a 48-year-old man, for the kidnapping of 12-year-old Michaela Williams. Do you know of the case? I know that no. This is only a year, 2-year tenure, but such problems really do create an impression in communities that there is no rationale or thorough thinking through of which suspects, or let me correct myself, which people you release on parole. Somebody should have earned the right to be released on parole.
No, there is a thorough thinking through. As you are aware, there are parole boards which are independent. There is a National Correctional Services Commission that also helped me, what is called the NCCS, which helps in terms of recommendations for the lifers. There is a thorough process that is undergone, but there will be lapse in the system, and there will sometimes be people who have been released who go out with good behavior in terms of economical, in terms of social life in the community. But there will be those few who will go out and create this kind of problems. And those few comes out and it becomes a real issue.
Minister, and I'm sure you'd agree the picture looks very bad. The 52-year-old Limpopo man in Burgersford who allegedly killed his 4 children, apparently he himself had been incarcerated for child murder.
Yes, you'll remember that those who make headlines, it is reality is those who will have been in the system will come out. But if you look into the whole system, there is a huge number also that is contributing positively to society.
I know you and I spoke about the figures of recidivism.
That one cannot be disputed. But there is a reality that there is lapse in the system. There are problems in the system. Hence, we are agreeing with the process of review. We have already started the process of review.
So far, what have you identified as the lapse in the system?
The lapse in the system is that we need to professionalize the parole board processes in terms of the people who help us to make the decisions, because there are people who participate in terms of the recommendations and also in terms of ensuring that the courses that are being offered inside the rehabilitation courses are specific to the individuals. As we speak now, it's courses that are general to, for example, we say people who are convicted maybe of murder or rape and so forth. These are the type of courses that you need to offer to them. But there is a reality that what might work with me might not work with you.
Which is what I was going to say, the whole approach of rehabilitative justice. Is it a blueprint that is applied without really thinking through if there are people who can be saved, so to speak. I know people continue to say restorative justice is the better option of the two, but are there people who, in cases such as these, I think communities are horrified that somebody who's well known to commit these crimes, heinous crimes, somehow finds themselves out on parole for good behavior, which of course some would say they would want to imbue that because they want to be out. Yeah,
but remember, it's not like it's myself who is not a professional who just sit there. For example, I do deal with paroles for lifers, but I sit with recommendations from a professional body, but also from reports of psychiatrists, psychologists, and social works. So when you have such reports, they help you to make a decision. There will be instances where such decisions are made and there's still lapses and relapse, which is what we are now looking at into the system. Why do we have such relapse in the system when it has undergone all that thorough process?
And Minister, I'm going to take you back to a case which is pretty much fresh in South Africans' minds, the issue of a medical parole for one Shabir Sheikh, that people said from the beginning they felt that it should not have happened. And that is a matter of opinion. The parole board said at that time that they believed. But when there are reports of a certain individual who's been released under such conditions, who seemingly appears to live a healthy and a free life, people question about whether or not there is a need for parole in certain circumstances.
Yeah, obviously the system of parole has proven that it's the best, it's best global practice. And it is a system that we have to continue to improve. Hence, we are looking at review the various policies that relates to the recommendations to identify the areas of lapse, and including research which continuously improve and help us improve the system.
But at the moment, what are the conditions? I know you and I sat here less than 2 months ago speaking about special remissions and the conditions that are applied for parolees in terms of keeping them in check. Where is the system failing there? Because if somebody is supposed to, report back to a police station or to the parole officer and they don't do, how do you make sure that the system forces them to?
Yeah, obviously we ensure that the people who are on parole, they've got a parole officer who is assigned to them to monitor. If they're supposed to report to the police station, are they reporting? All those kind of things, are they going the processes and the courses that they are supposed to do in the community? That is how it is being enforced.
Are there psychoanalysis tests done to see whether or not a person is not coping with being out in the community?
Yes, there are various mechanisms that are being used to monitor the inmate, because when you are on parole, you are still an inmate. It's just the difference is that you are now outside in order to prepare you to live in the community. There are things, the community sometimes raise an alarm and say, this person, he does this while he's outside.
Are they listened to?
Yes, we have in some instances revoked parole on the basis of complaints. When we have heard that there's a complaint, we investigate the complaint and the police confirm that indeed this complaint is valid. There has been revocations of parole. I have also in certain instances revoked parole that communities have raised.
So in a word, yes, you can confirm that the review of parole conditions has already started.
Yes, what I'm saying is that in terms of the Correctional Services Act as we speak now, it does allow us to revoke a parole when there is an issue that has arisen which...
Okay, I was just talking about the review of the general parole system.
Yes, it has already started.
So you've already started.
Yeah, with the general parole system, it has already started.
All right, thank you very much. Justice and Correctional Services Minister Ronald Lamola, thank you very much for joining us. Aldrin?